Moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, agenda, ordinance review, that's what we're here for tonight.
Phones are silenced.
Questions on it? Sue, you were explaining a little bit before to us there how the process would all work. And
So, yeah,
reiterate,
if they want to, if council decides they want to do administrative fines, how that would work is it would kind of work along with the nuisance ordinance that we council out of the past. First letter would go out, council would not be going around looking at properties that would either come from residents or from Eli or myself as we're driving here and there and whatever, we would find a property, bring it up to City Hall, to the clerk's attention. Clerk would send out the letter, obviously look to see if there is something, send out a letter with the administrative fine. And then there, in that letter, there would be a date that the resident could come to council, and you will try to schedule it for council meetings. They could come in and state if they're working on cleaning it up, if they don't think there's an issue, if they need help with it, whatever their reasoning being, council would listen to it, decide if it is a nuisance, and then they would have a timeline to clean it up. And if it's not done in that time, if they're still in process, maybe they're working on it, it's just taking longer, council then can decide if they want to give them an extra however many days. And then at that point, if it's not cleaned up, then the council can abate. And then they would go through the proper channels and eventually go out and clean up the property, store it, however long they have to store it till.
Hiring somebody else to clean it up.
Right.
Store it.
Depending on what it is, like we were talking about, if it's just a lawn that needs to be mowed, it can go through the process and Eli can go out and mow it. It's fees, it's $150 an hour with a 1 hour minimum. And that can be used for like, if there's trees in somebody's yard that haven't been, there's a tree in a yard that hasn't been moved in 2 years. That's down. So I mean, those types of things. So it's just another step that the council has the option of doing. It'll just go in conjunction with the other nuisance ordinance.
would vehicles fall under this too then? Non-licensed ones? I mean, there's a lot of cars sitting around this town that didn't just sit there. There's no intent to ever restore them probably. There's no intent to do nothing except make their neighbor mad because they gotta look at it every day.
Right.
The big thing there is, we've talked to Blue Earth County, we've talked to, he likes to use the procedures that Mapleton uses. We're gonna make it to where it's gonna be a 4-car maximum per residence, and that's the way it's gonna be. We aren't a subsidiary of B&R Salvage. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Do they have to be currently licensed and insured if they're sitting on the property then too? Or could we also make that up?
That was what Mapleton said.
What is our ordinance? I don't know verbatim what our ordinance reads.
I can't remember if ours has to be licensed or licensed and insured both.
I don't think we have any control over the insurance part, if I remember right, but when
Licensing.
Deputy,
Hagan?
Andrew?
yeah, Hagan was here a couple months ago.
It's on,
If it's on the street.
it has to be tapped and
Mhm.
I think our ordinance says it has to be licensed.
Yeah.
Or it has to be in a shed,
In a shed, yeah.
something to that effect.
On the
I'm pretty
street,
sure.
Remember, it's gotta be moved within somebody on the street. It's gotta be used.
Yeah, it's gotta be licensed and insured on the street.
Every
I think
3
it's
to 4
within
days.
48 hours,
48 hours.
I think.
So it'd have to be in a shed.
Right.
Does it qualify to be behind a fence so you can't see it?
Can't see it.
Okay, well, I mean, we're gonna
I mean,
give
I'm
options.
Assuming that is an option.
They can't be in the right of way. They can't be
Correct.
on
Has to
other
be-
people's property. They can't be
Correct. And-
on the line. They should have to be so far in.
We also have it in the ordinance. I know there's something in the ordinance that says it has to be sitting on like a parking pad, whether that's gravel, tar, concrete. It can't just be sitting in somebody's yard.
And they put a fence around it.
Well, if they put a fence around it, they put a fence around it.
Yeah,
I
because
mean-
you can just go one block away here and there's a fence around the whole property.
Correct.
We don't know what's in there, but it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
Because
it's-
all the public sees is four sides of a clean fence.
Correct. Correct.
You know, if everybody wants to build a fence and have all this stuff, build a 6 foot high
That's
fence.
what somebody in Mapleton had done, if I'm correct.
Because some of these fences are laced with thistles and weeds come by July and August. The
Everybody.
thistles all head out.
Yeah, to
And I
everybody.
mean, really?
Mhm.
Who would do that? Why would you want to live like that?
Cause it's Mapleton ordinance says violation for inoperable, abandoned or junked motor vehicles. State system shows.
Yeah, because or so that would be, that any type of nuisance, we could use the administrative fine for. Grass, assuming you could do junk vehicles.
So then you go nuisance parking and storage, trailer parked between house and garage, not on an approved surface. So just parking it on the grass
Right,
is
yeah,
not,
they can't do that.
Then you gotta look out on that. Say if somebody has a camper that they have. And they store it all winter and they bring it to town for 5 months. And the only place they have is to back it in on the lawn next to the house. How do you handle that? It always creates another problem.
Mhm.
You're trying to make it look decent,
You have to,
yet,
you have to be fair across the board. So if you're gonna say, if you're gonna allow that one, then you've got to allow the next guy who brings his car home and doesn't have a place to put it, or his,
I
their
know.
student
So,
comes home for the summer. You know, I mean, it's the same thing.
Yep,
so it's saying that it's gonna have to have an approved parking surface. You gotta put gravel
Cross rock.
down, there's your
You
approved.
get a couple buckets of crushed rock and put it on top of your grass and you've got your.
If you put it on top of grass too long anyway, it turns into dead grass, which is worthless. So I guess it means you gotta put a gravel pad down.
Yep.
So what's beside my garage is a gravel pad. That's where my camper's sitting.
so there's all kinds of things to look at. Like that there, you know, both
Oh.
sides of the story. But some neighbors don't live like living by junk. Myself, I wouldn't like it either. If you have junk, you want junk, build a shed, put your junk in a shed, nobody sees it, nobody will care. It's just that clean.
Go move into the country and let the county talk to you then.
Yeah, because there's rules in the county, you can't be doing all this stuff.
That's right.
I mean, there's fences last summer that had weeds in them 4 feet tall. And I mean, that would be a nuisance, right? Especially when it's both thistles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we have that in our ordinance with the overgrown grass, weeds around. Property fence lines.
And I mean, does a house that's been abandoned fall under some of this?
Yeah.
Because like I said, I brought up that house down here across the east side of the school. Where the squirrels are running in and out of the soffit. Squirrels are rodents, right?
Yep.
They'll destroy the house. The house hasn't been in and lived in what? 35, 40 years?
30+.
30 plus.
That house has been abandoned for 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who owns it?
Don't they just keep it up though? Don't they still mow the yard in that one?
They mow the yard, but look at the soffit.
Well,
The squirrels are running in there.
so
Still,
that one would be.
it's still full of stuff.
Pardon?
It's all still full of stuff. They just moved out. I mean, like furniture and,
So they would get the same letter
Yeah.
that you would get if you didn't take care of your yard. I mean, and you would get the fine assessed. The whole idea is this is to get people just to comply.
Well, comply and,
I mean, because right now, like I said before, the joke in town is our ordinances
yeah,
are.
we don't do anything.
We
I'm
don't do
sick of
anything. They
hearing
just keep
about
getting
that.
letters and it's no big
Yeah,
deal.
no.
Well,
That's not gonna,
so,
because nobody should keep their place up. I don't mean it needs to be pristine, but you keep the lawn mowed, everything trimmed, trees trimmed, keep it nice. Why should you have to live next to a dump? Why?
That devalues your property.
Exactly.
And you
know-
pay the same taxes as everybody else.
Exactly.
You know what I hear every time? Can't the city do anything to that house that you see when you first come into the town on from the east?
Yeah.
I see something, did you mow the boulevard or did
Wrong
you mow
side.
your neighbor's boulevard or somebody else?
There was
I'm
some
okay
guy
on
out there,
Saturday, but it was just mine.
there was a guy out there last Thursday
Yeah,
across there.
I mean, my God.
Mowing?
Well,
Well,
mowed the
he had a
boulevard
weed
off.
whacker trying to weed whack it down.
What do you do with something like that? I mean, Amboy's got them, Mapleton got them, everybody's got them,
Yeah,
but I mean, my God.
doesn't mean we have to accept them. There's been ample opportunities. We've done 2 already this year. For cleanups, free.
I still think that one that you're talking about should be a welfare check, although I've heard that there's
I think there's been a couple done even since I've lived in Good Thunder and county's not touching it.
In which house?
the house by the shop when you come into town,
Oh,
cause it'll probably turn into that, you know, I don't know. But yeah, okay, if they've checked it already.
I mean, for example, that one today with that cat box in the corner of the basement. That, were you here? About this square. 2x12s or whatever cat box, but no cat litter. It's about this tall.
No way.
Yes, you can see. The wind was out of the south today and you could smell that stench from that house,
Your eyes would water.
200 feet away, 150 feet away. I mean, there, the county should have been in there. If they receive any kind of county benefit, they should check this out and see where people are living.
because it's an unlivable structure,
And-
yeah.
Breathing that is not good for you. I'm sorry to tell you, but living in a house where a cat does its thing in the corner of the basement every day, all week, all month, all year long is not healthy living.
No,
Wow.
so if we go back to the special council meeting and what we have highlighted. Or so I guess I have.
Yeah,
one
that was
highlighted.
just, to let council know, those are the ordinances that
Yeah.
council already approved. So I know
Okay.
there was some question on which ones we had approved or which ones we had.
Oh.
I went back and pulled those minutes out
Okay,
and highlighted those and who made the motions, just so that we know where we're at. Cause this has been kind of an ongoing process.
yeah. Well, right now, we're talking, I guess, more mainly nuisance properties and
The fees are going to be?
a fee schedule and whatever.
Council
Yeah.
will have to decide what the fee is going to be.
Oh,
And I think, wasn't it Mapleton's was like 50 or something?
Well, maybe we should ask the public what the city can do to make it more easily to clean up yards that don't look attractive. When we offer dumpsters and now we're gonna offer curbside, what else can we possibly do to make people clean up their properties? So the neighbor that takes care of his property and mows his lawn, trims around his fences, trims around his buildings, don't have to live by somebody that never does nothing all year long. Anybody got an idea?
I'll tell you what I think. I've lived next to a neighbor for 25 years. And I've never once come to the council. I've always just maintained. Now, I really don't care how they live. I don't like it. So for me, now this is an option, guys. Instead of sitting finding. Make them build a fence. If that's how they wanna live, just make them build a fence.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting and finding them and they're gonna buck you on it all the way, and I don't know if the city could help them out. Make them hide it.
Like I say, you just look down the street here, there's a fence around the whole property. We don't know what's in behind there. We really don't care, but it's neat. There's no boards missing ever. It's always maintained. It's neat. It's
think-
clean enough.
And Sue did say that that would be a choice, an option. You're fined or you have a fence. It's your choice.
Yeah. Okay. me, I never really thought about it, but, when you live to when you have a neighbor that's a nuisance, the only thing it's doing is costing you money. Because when it comes time for you to sell that place,
Oh, yeah, you know,
and now it's, right, now it's. What did I, do, right? I
Mhm.
just try to keep my place up, and now you're costing me money, I mean, there's no argument.
Good example, that one down on the east side of the school. Nice houses on both sides. One in the middle is falling down within itself. So, I mean, it degrades the other properties.
I just wrote a letter to the city council in Mapleton because I'm selling a house in Mapleton and on both sides, it's a decrepit property. And I said my seller pays the same taxes as everybody else. We've had to do price reductions because of the comments and the feedback that we've gotten on these houses. That's not fair to this person who's paying the same taxes as everybody else in this town. So they were gonna make some movements on taking them down, but they didn't. They just, they sat there forever and nobody cared. But then when someone goes to sell their house and they gotta do price reductions because of the neighbors, that's not fair.
and
And again, maybe that isn't a bad idea, Tom. Just build a fence, 6 foot high fence. You can stuff as many cars as you want in there.
That's right.
And you can let the grass grow as long as above the fence.
over 6 foot,
And don't let it grow on the outside and go up along the side of it, you know?
as long as it's a fence that,
Can't
goes
be-
along with, well, can't see through and goes with setbacks. I mean, they can't just put it where they want. They're still gonna put it within you gotta have room for snow. You gotta have room,
Yeah.
for everything else. They have to
And I can,
abide by setbacks.
I can see the downside of a fence. Somebody will go down, no, we're taking drill a 2 foot hole and they'll set a post and they'll build a fence. And then every year when the frost comes up and down, pretty soon the fence is falling in. And then we got a fence caving in on all the crap.
That's fine, then you just
Well, nice to think. That's
stop with
what
the
they want.
invoices.
And if people don't want to mow their lawns, build a fence.
Still have to take care of the outside of it.
Well, or I don't know. It's hard to figure.
Well, enough's enough. It's,
You can try to encourage people to do that.
well,
The fence is a good idea. But if you get bucky with people, you can run into a big can of worms there.
but what's getting bucky with people?
You
It
can,
depends on the individual.
yeah, they can
Well, I'm
pay,
just saying,
they can
do you
pay-
have to talk to them for 10, 15 years about this problem?
I'm just,
When does common sense kick in?
common sense has nothing to do with it.
No,
It's-
does.
he's saying.
We're trying to be
What-
nice, trying to be common sense, saying your neighbors don't appreciate this. We're trying to be civil. You obviously are oblivious to life.
But that's meaningless though, because it comes down to the law,
Yeah,
you know.
well, that's why we can make codes, we can add it to the property taxes. They don't pay it, it's gonna go on to be a bigger and better
You
thing.
can, as long as you follow due process of
Yep,
law.
and we will do that.
It has to be to the word, because like he said, if you buck somebody and they paint that fence purple or they paint it graffiti and make it look just as trashy,
Yeah.
you almost have to get down to the word of, cause like you said, if you keep pushing somebody and they're like, fine, I'll put up a fence and I'll make it really ugly,
If we had the ability to make people put up a fence, we would have the ability to make them clean up their yards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't make anybody,
No,
Can't
there,
make anybody do anything. You can assess fines and you can
Yeah.
abate and everything else, but that doesn't gonna make people that don't wanna do it.
fences are very expensive.
and I don't,
No,
we want to get
How are you gonna assess the fines, I guess?
That's what we have to figure out what our fine schedule.
so we have, once council decides what the fines are, the ordinance that they're discussing tonight will have the fine. And you send the letter with the fine will be assessed. If they don't pay it, then it will be assessed through Blue Earth County to go to their, because it's October, I believe.
But you're gonna have to
Assess it.
afford over fine.
Well,
Not right away.
it's an
not,
administrative fine.
it's an administrative fine.
It's by
But
the,
still, if someone doesn't want to pay that, you're going to
You're
have
gonna
to
end
go
up
to.
having to go to a court of some sort, correct, if
Because
somebody
it's the
wants to.
Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, you can't.
You can
Life,
ass-
liberty, or property.
Well, and
without
that's
due
where-
Process of
That's
law.
where they come in, the council holds a hearing, for lack of a better term. And the resident can come in and state their issue and whatever.
That's not due process of law.
Well, that's the first part of it. And then if they don't, well, yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying, this is the first step. And then if it doesn't get done, then our attorney steps in, the attorney gets the letter, and then the attorney takes it from there and does the court hearing and all of that, yes.
And when you go by the due process of law and you want to just keep going to court and going to court and going to court,
Only one that.
this
wins.
guy here that represents the city, you're paying for it twice. You're paying for your own civil court and you're paying through your taxes. So I mean, somewhere along the line, I would think people would come to the common sense and just clean it up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play nice. I'm building a building.
that's
Yeah,
good.
great.
I'm just concerned as a taxpayer. What I'm saying is you don't want to push the wrong guy that's really gonna drag you into some cans of worms that'll cost the taxpayer a tremendous amount of money.
Do you think if they
Together
have
with that.
that kind of ambition to go to court, wouldn't you think they'd have that kind of ambition to clean up the
Clean?
property?
Sometimes it's just a principle, though. I totally get what you're saying. Sometimes it's just the principle.
I mean,
Tell me.
you got about a dozen properties in town that just have just stuff that they don't even move it to move around it.
None of those, you'll be able to buffalo into doing whatever you want.
No, but-
Well-
You run into the one person that's gonna say nope, and they're old, and they got a pocket full of cash. And you could cost the taxpayer a fortune.
no,
I don't
they
think we
will.
have any that are,
Well, you know,
We
there's-
will not. They will.
Oh, yeah, but
We're making an ordinance. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help run the city. They will be making the city waste money, not us.
I think that it's all the citizens that are
Yeah.
complaining, so.
We hear about it all the time.
And that's the other part of the residents are the ones that are, we're trying to encourage the residents to come in and say, hey, you know what? Help us out here. Because it's your town,
look right across the street. There's about seven or eight vehicles around that house and property. You can only drive one. Why? Why?
because they want to, I guess.
Okay, then go out and rent a piece of property and put them on there and you can have 50 of them. But you can't have them in the city of Good Thunder.
Or the city of Mapleton, or the city, I mean,
or any
everybody.
city for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why don't we just follow Mapleton's, they've been doing this for a while, they've been successful.
That's what we're trying to do. However, we don't have the police presence, so therefore it's upon Eli and myself.
Well,
We should
and
put as far as the fine.
The fines and stuff, yes, and I don't,
50
That's-
the first and
I'm
one.
not arguing with you. I'm just trying to point out that I don't want to see something cost the taxpayer a huge amount of money.
I don't either,
You
but
know,
I don't know how.
Was this the case within the last 10 years? A man, Cato, wanted that old guy to get rid of a whole bunch of junk cars, I guess. And he pled indigent, but everybody involved in that case knew it wasn't true because it went all the way to the Minnesota Supreme Court and he won.
was that the guy up in South Bend?
Yeah, he won.
Myrtle?
It was just in that part of town.
Okay.
And it was in the last 10 years. It was on the news, They spent a fortune going all the way, it went all the way to the Minnesota Supreme Court. And the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled in his favor. And he was claiming indigent, but everybody knew that wasn't true because he had high-priced lawyers that he was just paying cash.
sure,
So when you get there, that means the losing party pays all the legal fees. And to go to the Minnesota Supreme Court, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. This isn't a $10,000 court case. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
right.
Yeah, but we,
So what I'm saying, you'll buffalo most people into compliance. But if you hit that one person,
But
that
even,
can cost the taxpayer.
It's not
even
necessarily
the word
buffalo, no.
buffaloing, no.
That's the only way these really work.
It's already
Well-
costing the taxpayer money by keeping their house up and the houses that are, their property tax is low, so.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying I don't want to see something that,
But if you make a covenant and a restriction for the city, we're not buffaloing anybody.
It's everybody.
It's
It ain't just-
everybody.
you gotta be able to enforce it though.
Which is
And
why
that's
we're doing.
what we're working on.
Because the ordinances we have now have the teeth, so to speak, do
Well,
anything.
all the verbiage is wrong because we do not have,
It's just, it's basically trying to say, here, please do something.
we don't have a city police.
So,
it would be so much easier if properties that were being questioned that Sue or Eli fined, if those properties or owners would come, when they got the first letter and go, what do we need to clean up? Well, I don't know. Look at the 3-foot weeds in the fence. Look at the
Two
children's
junk cars.
toys that you got laying in the yard, then you don't have any of that size children left anymore. Everything, there's just multiple stuff in this town all over. You name it, you can find it.
That will just be a risk that we need to take. That will just be a risk that we need to take.
Yep, and if somebody wants to sue the city again, it'll just it'll just go back on the taxes on the rest of us, and, but we made an effort to clean up the town, and if somebody wants to treat the town like that and go to the Supreme Court,
That's the
I
risk we'll
guess,
have to take.
we're in a battle. Well, we were in a battle. We still might be still in another battle yet. We don't know where we're at in the present battle, so. Tom, you had something?
Question?
But if you listen to it, it's Mr. Jabarian, right?
No,
Lilith.
Oh,
Lilith.
sorry.
that's okay.
If you listen to people like him, nothing's ever gonna get done, right? Because what's going on here is, it's a scare tactic. It's like, oh God, the city, you can't do that because they're gonna sue the city. Well, if that happens, nothing's gonna get done and the city is gonna continue to look like shit.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna throw this out there. This is what's spinning around up here.
I was on council 30 years ago and we were discussing the same crap we're doing now.
Yep.
You were on one of those planning commission and,
Yeah,
Just
yeah, this has been ongoing for 30 years.
yeah,
keep on kicking that can.
Yeah.
And nothing gets fixed.
Yeah.
And because people are afraid that, oh God, the city's gonna get sued. And I'll sit and I ask, I don't know if I've talked to any of you council members, but I always found it funny when I talked to a council member about something about, somebody's property. And there was always an excuse. It was always, well, we can't do that because the lawyer won't let us. We can't do that because the lawyer won't let us. And it got this. I mean, why did we elect these council members when they're not gonna do anything?
Well, they can't break the law.
So here's the deal. I think that you make the fine high enough.
That it
where
hurts.
people where it gets their attention and it's like, oh shit, we're gonna do something. You know what? Maybe we should build that fence. Maybe we should hide it. If we hide it, then nobody can bitch.
So-
Everybody's having.
Was Tom's comment there, could we make that administrative fine when we send out that notice and that fine? Could we put that fine at $2,500 and say, this fine will go away if your property is cleaned up in 30 days?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that might be a little reachy.
Well, I mean,
You could set it, I'm,
like Tom said, you gotta,
we could, I could definitely ask our attorney that we could set it at, maybe it's $500.
yeah, I mean,
Something like
something,
that. And then I'm assuming too that the council also has a little leeway in that too, is, if somebody comes in and they're being assessed, let's just say a $50 fine because they haven't mowed their yard. And they come in and they go, you know what, I really need to mow my lawnmower's broke, and they just can't financially do it,
yep.
and that's something different. So I mean, some of it's gonna be a case by case basis as well. But I think I can definitely talk to Kennedy.
Well, we don't need to set the fee schedule tonight,
No,
right?
we do not.
We just need to approve the ordinance.
Right, the fee schedule,
And-
because once we pull the fee schedule out of the ordinances, we can do that
Right.
separately.
Does the city have to follow that no mow May stuff?
I don't.
The city can choose to, is it North Mankato or Mankato bought that, and I think Mankato tried to, I think it was North Mankato. A couple of years ago, they tried to establish the no mow May, and their attorney said, you're better off just letting it go.
So, okay, there's an individual that's got the grass about this tall now. Now, how's he gonna get that mowed off? He's gonna say, oh, I can't get it mowed off, it's too long. Yep,
Well,
there
then,
you
you know
go.
what, we can have Eli come out and do it for $150 an hour.
There you go.
There you go.
Because,
That's what our fee schedule is.
that I had take a whole week to try to fix it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
yeah, yep.
No, May is, hell, it's almost July.
Well, that's why I didn't send any letters out in May, because I just wasn't gonna go there. There's
Yep.
very few in town anyways that do the no mow May, and now. And I did send out 12 letters on Wednesday regarding lawn mowing.
Does anybody have to come and tell you the lawn is too long, or do you and Eli have to go out and find those lawns or not?
Nope. Mr. Lillis comes in and says so-and-so's lawn is 3 feet tall. We can go and look at it, go, yep, you're right, we take a picture, we send them a letter.
But we as council,
You
we,
guys cannot.
Right,
No.
you can.
If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, so-and-so's lawn. And you report it to to me or Eli, and then we will go check. Yep,
Same way the messy yards, it's. They're gonna file a complaint.
And you'll have.
It ain't,
Yeah, you'll have to keep.
it
track
isn't
of
us
that
doing,
stuff.
you know, exactly. Right now, it's he said, she said,
Yeah,
you know,
so if you went back to this fence thing. And built a fence. How could you keep it so there would be no graffiti, or it wouldn't be pink or purple? A fence would be in its natural wood state.
I don't think we want
I don't
to
think.
fence, I don't think we want to get in the fence building business at all. That's,
Building, no.
it's another whole can of worms that,
Just because you don't like the color pink doesn't mean somebody else doesn't.
right, and are we gonna finance it? And we put up one for one person and said, well, I want a fence too. You should put up a fence for me.
No, I don't think the town wants to find out.
town can't keep putting up fences.
But
I mean, I understand the thought, but
I guess.
Figure out a plan to encourage people somehow to put up a fence. It's getting on.
well, we encourage them to clean up their yards by offering a free service. What did that cost the 2 dumpsters, Sue? Was it $1,200 or
Well, it was right around $1,000 maybe.
$1,000? We offered that service already. But you look at some of the same yards, not hardly anything went there. So what part of that don't we get? That we're offering a service and nobody cleans up their yards?
The dumpster thing, you know, like older people and the pickup in front of the house will work a lot better than the dumpster thing.
That's what I said.
Well, when
But it
is
takes
that?
Less things.
Pretty soon?
It doesn't take couches,
28?
like that.
Yeah, I think it's the 8th, I think.
2 weeks.
But,
Yeah.
you know,
It's coming up in a couple of weeks.
yes,
Yeah, like-
28th, 28th of May,
Saturdays from now.
I think it is.
So I mean, and again, we talked about having a curbside or another dumpster one. We talked about 3 of them this summer, right?
Yep.
We talked between, yeah, some,
Yep.
3 or 4 of them you guys did.
But again, then, just for an example, across the street, there's nothing there that is junky. But there's piles of lumber and there's vehicles. None of
Yeah.
that's gonna go in the dumpster.
No,
So that creates a whole nother issue.
that's where we go to these codes. City of Mapleton says no more than 5 nuisance property, storage, 5 motor vehicles at one said property.
I think we have that in ours,
I
but
think we should only have
I think-
about 4.
And well, and this is,
I think ours says 4.
I think that's too.
well, this is, but this says usable or runnable or operable.
Yeah, operable.
Operable. I gotta find the spot where it talks about, oh, yeah, well, abandoned, inoperable, abandoned or junk motor vehicles. There's not a number you can have. It's, if they are deemed.
If they don't
abandoned,
run,
you know,
they shouldn't be sitting there, right?
exactly. And if their tabs are way out of 2-3 years out of date, then they can't be in the right of way.
one thing is you can get money for them.
Mhm.
well, if a vehicle breaks down and it gets parked for. Say a month or so, that's a little bit different.
That's right.
You know,
Absolutely. The city will work with anybody that,
you know,
hey, my car
they
broke
can't
down on,
afford the transmission.
That's right.
motor, but,
The communication has to be there.
right, that's the biggest thing.
you go and you look at some of these vehicles with no license plates that have been there for 6, 8, 9 months already. There's no intent. They're just there. You know?
When you guys look at these policies, does the fine go to the owner then? Is that where the fine goes? So does, I'm not the type of person that's gonna tell on somebody. But if somebody comes and thing, you have to send that to the landlord, right?
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Property owner.
Land property.
The owner will get a letter now. Chances are I would send a letter to the renter. I mean, I guess that's something that council
Yeah,
can,
well, that would make sense.
you know, it makes sense to send it to the renter, to have one for the renter and then the one with the fine to the landlord.
So I'm not a landlord, but so I'm assuming that if a landlord got like, let's say 5 of these letters, is there any way that the city could pull their,
Yes,
Rental license, sure.
yes, they could lose their rental license, yes.
Unless it's family and it's involved in,
Families don't need a rental license.
that's right.
Then it's gonna go back on the property owner,
Property owner.
and if they don't pay it, it'll go on their taxes. One way or another, it's gonna get there.
But again, you put a, administrative fine of 50 or 75 or $100 and it goes on the taxes, it'll just hang there, and they could leave that $100 on their taxes for 10 years as long as they just keep the taxes up, right?
Yeah.
Because you only gotta pay if you're behind on your taxes.
You
And
pay a
you're-
percentage of, part of that percentage is going to be that assessment as well.
Yeah, so if you pay your taxes twice a year, you're gonna pay half of that each time. Because if there's a balance, if they leave the fine on, they pay everything else, then they're gonna be delinquent in their taxes because now it's a tax.
Right. Because now it's part of their property.
Even though it went on as a fine, now it's part of their tax, so it's a tax.
Yep.
And then they'll be delinquent with.
In the calendar year, they gotta make it whole.
Okay, because otherwise,
Yeah.
people fall behind their taxes and they'll just let it sit there and then pretty soon they'll go pay some. And then they got more
Yeah.
time again and
But
more
they're
time.
also getting interest on all of that as well.
but that happens.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
oh, it does.
Mhm.
I know that happens, because when I bought my property, there was a lot of delinquent taxes on it, and I had to pay for it.
Mhm.
So I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
What?
I see what you're saying. As a property owner, if you fine him, right? He's just gonna pay he doesn't have to pay it all.
Mhm.
Because if
I would think
if
there'd be
you're
a delinquency.
delinquent on your taxes, you're delinquent. But they're not gonna foreclose or confiscate the property.
No.
It's just gonna drag on the next year.
Drag
the
on.
next year,
Yep.
the next, until somebody buys the property and then they gotta pay probably all that tax.
Yep.
but if the fees keep adding up and they have any common sense, they would.
I wanna look into that, because I would think, but you do make a good point.
Yeah, I think that, there's people that will run it until they absolutely get the last letter, go down, pay some, then
Well,
you're,
they do a payment agreement. So I just happened to run across one of these. They set up a payment agreement that they have to pay X amount of dollars a year. So they come in and they pay that. Well, then in 3 years, they pay $500, whatever it is.
Yep.
In 3 years now, they're getting defaulting again on their property taxes. They go in and sign another agreement,
Yep.
pay another so much a year. They pay it and then there's one that's doing that right now.
But they don't. pay.
But they'll only do it for so long before they're gonna, because your taxes are never gonna go away, they're just getting bigger, because that $500 you're paying doesn't hardly cover the interest on back taxes.
look at all the ways we're trying to do this. The simplest way is to take it out to your curb in 2 weeks and throw it away.
Yeah.
And it would be all done.
Need for help, there's nothing wrong with coming in and saying, hey, I need some help. We can find avenues, we can find,
Like John made the comment, the older people,
Mhm.
they're not capable. Well, make a call and say, hey,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
need,
Yep,
I'm sure there'd be
The
many.
lazy people too, the curbside thing will work. You'll get more at the curbside thing than you will at the dumpster.
but you're still, the problem, a lot of the stuff that's in people's yards are still not gonna go in the curbside, because it's bigger.
They might not, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Because it's lazy.
Pardon?
It could be that,
Yeah,
or
or
it
it's
could be
too
they
big.
just want it, or it could be any number
I
of
mean,
10,000 reasons.
they might like it.
It doesn't matter what it is, it cannot be taken away without due process of law.
Correct.
Yeah. Period. That's
Mhm.
the highest law of the land.
But right now, we don't have nothing.
Maybe the highest law of the land, but why you want to offend your neighbors and degrade your neighbor's property because
And
of
your town.
junk? You know, just that simple.
Well, it's just the law, you know?
Yep. I mean, yeah, I mean, if people wanted help, I mean, I don't know how we could do that, but, yeah, I mean, geez, we're offering multiple kinds of cleanup abilities and take advantage of it. It doesn't cost you nothing, but if you,
And I'm not here to argue and fight with you either. I wanna play nice in the sandbox.
if
As
you,
long as I get played nice with, I'm gonna play.
I know where there should have been a sandbox.
Yeah.
Um. All we're simply asking is we're providing a service that doesn't cost you anything. Why would you want to go through the fines and this and that? And all we're simply doing is clean up your yards, mow the lawn, keep it looking neat. I don't know if you can ask Google what the definition of neat is, because everybody lives by a phone, so maybe you should look it up on Google. What is the definition of neat?
It's an opinion.
Clean.
It's an opinion. Well, clean, maybe not. But you know, when you get into the thing of anything that looks. I don't like the way that looks. That's an opinion.
Yeah.
And any judge is gonna tell you that. And if you got a lower court judge that would happen to rule that that opinion is something, he's definitely gonna get thrown out by a superior court judge. Because it's an opinion, you know, if you look over there and say, you know, I don't know what to use in it. Just because your opinion is one thing, somebody else's opinion is not.
But if we put it in an ordinance and it's against the ordinances,
You know,
then what's gonna happen in the court? If we have a 3 vehicle limit and no building supplies stored outside, no stuff like that.
Will probably work except for the fact that. You're not gonna be, anybody that owned a property before that's not gonna have to comply. But any property sold after that will have to. So like, let's say you make a 5 vehicle limit, right? So anybody that owned the property before that ordinance went into effect, they're not gonna have to comply. Because they bought that property under the assumption they could keep any more than 5 vehicles there. Now, once that property got sold to the next person, that ordinance would take effect. You know, but you're not gonna be able to make you know, it's called grandfathered in.
I don't know about
I
that.
don't know about that because.
Ordinance right now only says 4 vehicles. Our ordinance right now that we've had since, I don't know how many years,
back when it said
says,
good.
if you pull up our ordinances right
I've
now,
got
it says,
ordinances
yep,
from way
yep.
back, and no, it doesn't say
It says
that.
4 vehicles. It's got a 4 vehicle limit on it.
There may be now, but it
Talking-
didn't from way back.
Talking about being grandfathered in, so in other words, years ago when they changed the speed limit to 55 miles an hour, and I was used to driving 70 when I got my license, I didn't have to drive 55 because I was grandfathered in, huh?
No, you didn't own the road.
I still had my license and it was that way when I got my driver's license.
But you didn't own the road.
It's not.
Yeah, well,
It's
we
not
had that ordinance in effect, so why does people want to fight this?
The ordinance is been in there since it said Good Thunder Police Department. That was back in the 70s.
Well, I got copies of all these.
That's good. I've read through them too. I'm just saying, when is enough enough? We're trying to make this town look presentable.
And I'm not fighting with you, I'm just
Well,
like.
I'm sorry, this is where I get frustrated with everything out here because Scott just said he was on 30 years ago they tried and got nowhere. We gotta listen to this same crap. Oh, why don't you guys do something about it? Well, we have tried, and you know what? We're here now and we are going to do something about it. If it means it isn't you, it isn't whatever, it's for the whole town. It's common sense. I'm protecting my investment.
I had an individual tell me not even 2 weeks ago, if he ever moves out of town, it'll be because of the other properties makes his property look bad. And I mean, is that how we're supposed to treat the people of our town? by not trying to enforce our ordinances, that guy moved out of town because he didn't like the way the neighbor's place looked and it brought his property down.
Well, there's living proof. We just heard, made a letter to the city of Mapleton because of two properties on each side of a house trying to sell. Why is it that person homeowner's problem that you got two garbage dumps on each side?
And they would
Affecting
probably-
theirs.
They probably have a court case
Oh.
when they're selling the property.
No,
But you know, they-
they're abating, they're abating them immediately.
No, I'm saying like the homeowner that's saying his property value is lower
Oh,
and you're lowering the price.
Yeah.
And he has to sell it now at a lower price. He would have a court case, you know.
yeah.
Again, why do you want to go to
Yeah,
court?
why do you,
I
why
don't
does it take
want
that?
to-
The city of Mapleton is making a move on it immediately.
Good.
Yeah.
So common sense.
Yep.
But anyway, so
This nuisance thing isn't just. It's the condition of the houses too.
Yeah, definition of public nuisance, permits, conditions that are unreasonably annoys, injures, endangers the safety, health, morals, comfort, or repose of any considerable number of public entities.
We should put odors in there. You didn't say odors.
Yeah. I mean, public nuisance
Falls under that.
falls 15 times under that.
All I'm saying is you just gotta be careful with that.
Um,
You know, I've been coming to these meetings for 30 years too. And I said that and where the attorney said you have to be careful with this.
well, this has been vetted through the attorney. So
Yeah.
this ordinance, and this
This is their recommendations through the attorney.
is basically what Mapleton has put in place, and they have been making headway, is my understanding.
Take that.
So again, getting back to that administrative fee, say we send an individual and you got 30 days to clean up your property, or you will be assessed this fee. My train of thought.
30 days can be a lot too, though.
Pardon?
30 days can be a lot,
I know, hey, I know that.
Yeah.
depending on the property, but I'd hate to give somebody 30 days and then that goes by and then.
No, it's not 30 days, nor, I mean, if we send the letter,
I just threw that out
I
there.
don't have the letters, I gave them to you guys in one of the
That's
other
right
previous
here, yeah.
packets. So we'll attach the fine, we'll put it in that rate of that letter. And they will have 15 days to comply, or however, you know, I think it wasn't the letter 15 days or something?
I think so.
And then they can plead their case or whatever at the council meeting on whatever date. They can also request a special council meeting. If they say, you know what, I don't want to do, you know, whatever, they can. Anybody has the option of requesting a special council meeting. So they could do that too, and that would be prior on a different date than the regular council meeting. Otherwise, the beginning of the regular council meeting, the resident will have the option to state their case.
Getting back to earlier, I brought up a property that has a couple pickups sitting on the sidewalks, you know? The night that Andrew was here, there was a car on the sidewalk down there. It was gone.
I talked to him. I talked to Andrew. Andrew went down right after he left here. And he explained to the homeowner that you cannot obstruct, block. He went through the whole thing with me.
Okay,
And the
so-
guy had some minor thing he was fixing.
That,
He got parts within 2 days. He got it and he got it off of there. So
okay,
he kind of told him, just so in the future, don't be putting your vehicle up on jack stands in the right of way and on the public sidewalk. And I mean, that's where you can work with them. But again, common sense comes into prevail somewhere there.
but we have one property that has two pickups on the sidewalk for
Yeah.
years. So I mean, right there, we shouldn't even have to tell the sheriff.
But that's what the sheriff's there for.
Yeah.
He should just go tell that individual right now.
Get the vehicles off.
He's in
Right.
violation. And those pickups have to come off the sidewalk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You cannot, yeah.
And they're the ones driving around. I'm not the sheriff.
Um, And then did you read in the part here of Mapleton's things that poor inoperable, abandoned or junk motor vehicles and trailers, that each vehicle is a separate violation.
Oh, I suppose that would make
It's not
sense.
just.
It's not grouped into one violation, it's
big
five
thing.
violations,
It's
it's however many.
each vehicle is a violation. So. They want to strengthen numbers, I guess that's, there's ways around it. The easiest way would be common sense.
It's just.
Take care of it, make it disappear. Everything disappears.
Any other ideas, Sam? Anybody else?
Well, I think ordinance 2502 looks good as is, other than the 2 spelling corrections, which I think we already fixed.
Is that, where did you get that number?
Title of the ordinance.
Yeah.
Top of the.
Oh, that's the other one.
2502.
Here it is,
25,
sorry.
two.
I'm on there.
3502, you?
2502.
I think I'm missing them too. Our starts with 35.
It was just 35?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, 2502 on top.
Yeah.
2502 on top.
I was going by this.
Yeah, me too.
All the copies the same, come on now.
The 35 is just
Those are the paragraphs.
our paragraph
Yep.
codes.
So do we make a definite number on the cost of the,
Nope, we don't have to do that yet. We need to pass this ordinance first, and then I'm gonna, converse with our attorney on setting what you had talked about. Maybe, you set it $500,000. If they comply, they don't have to pay it. If within so many days, whatever, I can get those information, but,
Because I think there's a point where it could be considered excessive.
well, I think so too, yes. So I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if you wanna do that anyway,
Right.
because then,
well, this all looks good enough to everybody then. Somebody want to make a motion to approve ordinance number 2502?
I will make that motion.
Someone to second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye,
Aye.
opposed, motion carried. All righty. So will we be able to talk about the fines at our next council meeting then?
yeah, we'll put that on the agenda for that.
Okay.
We can assess, we can figure out the fines, and we'll do that. We can figure that out, and then, like I said, we'll have to do the public hearing, because now, once we have all this done, I can.
Okay,
Get
so
the public hearing and.
Verbiage,
all of the-
verbiage wise. Firstly, with this, with a change of title.
Well, that would be the letter, so that can be up for, that would be different, that's not necessarily part of the ordinance. I mean, it is the ordinance, but it won't go in the ordinance. They'll get a letter,
Okay, well, I just mean
we
the,
can create the letter, yes.
yeah, some of this, what's
Yeah.
in here is very good and we
Yeah,
do
we
want
can
to use
discuss
it.
that too, that, if we, and I'll put some letters together at the next council meeting, and they can.
I mean, you read through, there's violation 1 nuisance, talks about lumber, tires, debris, ladders, building materials.
So much
This is
easier, if you
parking.
just have that, and then you just check which one it is, versus trying to.
Violation 3 nuisance parking is trailer parked between house and garage, not on an approved surface. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple.
And what the ordinance.
That's what we want. We want it simplified.
And that's why I'm saying that works for them. Why recreate the wheel?
Yep.
Correct, yep, and we can just, yep, and I can work with that, because I know I have the document of that, I can manipulate it.
So that's been approved by their attorneys.
Correct, yep.
Kennedy,
I'm pretty sure Kennedy's their attorney too.
yeah,
They also have the police
that's,
force that
very
sets
possible.
those up. The police department is the ones that finds the violations and then sends that. Let it go.
Do they do that for Amboy too, since they're the Amboy police?
No.
Amboy isn't worried about their properties either?
Yeah, but I don't think Mapleton enforces theirs.
Certain on the side of their cars. City of Mapleton Police also serving Amboy.
Oh, so maybe they do then, I guess I
I
don't,
was wondering if they do, it'd be part of their policing, I would think,
could be, yeah, I don't,
Like, I was always an impression that the sheriff wasn't gonna come out for a barking dog, but he said they would because it's a nuisance, right?
Nuisance.
And that, you know, you can't have a dog barking in the neighbor's bedroom window at 3 a.m. in the morning
For
and,
3 hours.
yeah, so.
They said that people, they come and
Yeah, they went in when that's.
Anything else?
Nope, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Someone second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Thank you.
Good, Thomas.
Have a nice